YouTube has open carry laws, right? Hey y'all, it's Jason from GameRave.com, otherwise known as Danger Boy, and this is GameRaveTV. On this week's episode of GameRaveTV, I actually wanted to sit down and talk about a fading genre, and that's the light gun series. After having a really strong run on the 16-bit eras and the PlayStation 1, Saturn, as the PlayStation 2 and Xbox original started coming into play, and as TVs have been being more and more advanced and updated and so forth, the light gun is pretty much going away as a genre, which is kind of depressing. The last set of games to come out that were truly light gun games, and I don't mean the Wii ones, was Time Crisis on the PlayStation 3. And the problem with the game is that it's no longer an actual true light gun game where you can just, point, move, and shoot and you're good to go. The modern light gun is basically just a mouse pointer moving around and so forth, so you have to actually wait for your cursor to come with you. It's kind of depressing. There was a sort of I'd say rekindling of the flame with the Wii, at least, just because of how it had the House of the Deads and the re-release of Mad Dog McCree, which is pretty cool. But that all being said, I wanted to go over the PlayStation 1 light gun games and fill you guys in on what was cool, what was not, etc. Bear in mind that with the PlayStation, there's actually two different type of light guns. There's the Konami Justifier and there's the Namco GunCon. The GunCon was more exact, more specific in its firing capabilities. The problem was that not all games supported it, and you actually had to have the gun plugged into the AV jack on your TV. Not all games used both guns. In fact, some were exclusive, others were exclusive the other way. So, just be careful when you're buying the games and make sure you have the right light gun. That said, let's get to it. Alright, let's get the cheesy ones out of the way first. By cheesy, I am referring to Area 51, Maximum Force, Judge Dredd, and Crypt Killer. Now, all four of these games, technically Crypt Killer is separate, so 3 of the 4 games are full motion video games. And what that meant is that the background is basically just either CG graphics or camera footage with the bad guys overlaid on top of it. Area 51 and Maximum Force and Crypt Killer were actually arcade games originally ported to the systems. Area 51, despite being really cheesy and obnoxious, actually was an amazing game from a secrets point. You could shoot specific objects or specific items in a specific order, and you would unlock these bonus rooms or secret areas that would give you extra bonus points, extra items, etc. And there's tons of them. Area 51 on the PlayStation nowadays isn't too expensive. If you can put up with the slightly JPEG-y FMV footage, it's still decently fun to play. I could never really get into it, but it does have its following and so forth. Maximum Force was basically the exact same game, but instead of it being the aliens at Area 51, it was like terrorists and drug dealers and all that other fun stuff. Crypt Killer was like a poor man's House of the Dead. There was just this floating severed head that told you what to do, and then you go and shoot all these crazy lizards and mummies and all that fun stuff. Judge Dredd was just bad. Just avoid it. If you can get it for $1, it's worth it just from that standpoint, but if you pay more than that, you will wish you could have spent it on a Slurpee or something. Now, if you guys are looking for fun times, there is the Point Blank series. There are 3 Point Blank games in total, and they're kind of weird. They're not really a light gun game per se. They're more of if you took all the mini games from Mario Party and threw in a gun. Just very creative, lots of different things. There's target practice. There's try and be the first one to shoot a car down. It was like Street Fighter's bonus round, but with a gun. A lot of different party modes, randomness, and so forth. really, really good. Now these ones, anything by Namco will require the gun con, like Point Blank, Time Crisis, etc. But if you're looking for very, 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 very just really well done light gun games, go with these guys. Great for parties, even better if you have some beer in you. Check it out. Now, if you're looking for more of the arcade games, but without all the pizzazz, there is a game that is near and dear to my heart and then has been with me since Sega CD, and that's Lethal Enforcers. Lethal Enforcers was by Konami, the same guys that did Castlevania and the Ninja Turtles and all that fun stuff. And basically, it is just a 2D background with a bunch of cheesy 2D live-action actors with about 4 frames of animation each, rolling into the screen, shooting at you, yada yada. Like I said, I've loved this game since the Sega CD. In fact, I actually mailed away for the pink Justifier gun for the Sega CD. I'm so old. But it's kind of a harder to find game now, and as far as I know, I don't think Lethal Enforcers was ever released on anything past the PlayStation 1 version, aside from like the Sega CD and Super Nintendo and so forth. What is nice is that the PlayStation version, since it's the actual arcade, has all the missing animation frames or extra in-game objects that were missing from the 16-bit versions. That's just goofy fun to play. Plus, you know, you're in Chicago. I mean, you're in my hometown shooting stuff up. In fact, if it was still there, I actually could have showed you where the one background in Chinatown took place. The Konami used to be in Wooddale, Illinois back in the day, so that's why Chicago's in Lethal Enforcers. I really do ramble a lot in these, don't I? Alright, next on the block are the oddballs out. And these 3 light gun games aren't bad, or, well, one of them are. But they didn't really fit in with other groups of games within this video, so I figured I'd tackle them in their own little section. The first one is Gunfighter. Gunfighter is basically Time Crisis in the Old West. And it was actually a pretty good game. It's about 5 to 6 stages. The game's only real fault is that it was very muddy. Like, it was really dark, the textures were very grainy and stuff like that. But it's a really oddball game out there that most people don't realize exists, and that it's a gun game, because it doesn't really look like it from the cover, even though it's a hand holding a gun. There's Project Horned Owl. Project Horned Owl was the first light gun game for the PlayStation and launched with the Justifier. And it is just the blandest son of a gun game you'll ever see. Not worth it, unless you're collecting all the light gun games or a complete library. Just very, very boring. The other one would be a baby of mine, Elemental Gearbolt, and I'm referring to the regular edition and not the uber expensive one. Elemental Gearbolt exchanges the bullets and the guns for these like heavily armored Japanese chicks that use elements, fire, and 2 other things I can't remember off the moment, top of my head, to take on these very RPG-like creatures and monsters, etc. What made Elemental Gearbolt so much fun, besides the actual gameplay and the element aspect, was the music. Like, it was just this amazingly orchestrated, like, it really felt like you were playing a role-playing game instead of a light gun game. Highly recommended. A little bit pricey. I mean, it's a good game, but it's in that, like, oh, it's working designs with, you know, rare shit. It's not. Just wait till you can find a good cheap copy. Alright, down to the home stretch in the last few games here. Time Crisis 1 and 2. Love Time Crisis. Love, 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 love! I love this game so much, I spent $110 to buy the Japanese version the 3 to 6 months before it came out to America. And when the American one came out, I bought that one too. Time Crisis is an arcade port from Namco, so obviously it uses the gun con. What made the game amazing was that it was just absolutely over-the-top action. Like, it reveled in how blatantly stupid it was. Just from the awesome voice acting, and by awesome I mean the action and all that fun stuff. Just really fast-paced, great presentation, great enemies and layouts and so forth, just constantly moving, etc. What made it more interesting too was that the game used a pedal in the arcade, and if you pressed the pedal, that would actually pop you out to shoot people. Otherwise, if you let it go, you hide and reload. In the PlayStation version, Namco put a button on the gun con to act as the pedal. But if you just plugged in a second controller or an actual steering wheel with the pedal, you could use the pedal and controller to act as the pedal from the arcade. And let me tell you, there is nothing better than just sitting in a chair with your foot on a gas pedal, popping guys off left and right. Oh my god, fun. Time Crisis to this day is still one of the best games on the PlayStation forever and ever, amen. But that being said, what would the #1 gun game be on the system? So, the absolute best gun game on the PlayStation wasn't even its own game. It was actually on a disc with other games. And that disc is Hard Trilogy. Now, there were 2 Hard Trilogies. The first one was based off the 3 movies. The fourth one sucked. The second game, which had nothing to do with the other movies and stuff, it just sucked. Ignore. What made Hard Trilogy 2, which was the light gun game, 1 was the driving game, 3 was the racing game, was that for the time, it was the most interactive game I had ever played because you could shoot everything. And I don't mean like all the characters and all the objects. I mean like everything. The ceiling tiles, the bushes, the Coke machines, and I mean the soda, not the drug. Glass, panels, bad guys, innocents, bushes, trees. Like, the game was so inventive that, like, if someone was on fire and you shot them, you got a mercy shot bonus. Special effects would ripple, just explosions everywhere. The game literally knew how over the top it was and just ran with it, because by the end of the game you were standing on like the wing of a plane shooting, and like it was absolutely amazing. Now, by today's standards, it looks like shit. I mean, the guys are like, 2D polygons and so forth, but for how cheap you can get Hard Trilogy, and if you have a CRTV and a Justifier gun, this guy, it is the absolute most awesome thing you'll play all day. And between Hard Trilogy and Time Crisis and Elemental Gearbolt, they're just like the 3 like most beautiful gun games you can play on the PlayStation. And it's a really sad day when we will not be able to have these light gun type games on future systems, because they're just fun as hell. Alright guys, that wraps it up for this week's episode. If you have any questions, concerns, email, Twitter, post, it's all good. Comment below, let me know what your favorite game is in the light gun series. Have arguments with other people. It's the internet, troll. It's great. See you guys later.
Action! It's all over.